On today's show, it's a Monday morning and it's looking a little different than normal. My name is France. We got the young staff writer J-Smo in the building. Big shout outs to Vlad. You know what I'm saying? Vlad had to take some PTO for the day, and I granted him that PTO. You know what I'm saying? 8 hours paid time off. But nonetheless, on today's show, we're going to talk about all the events that occurred at Traffic 6 out of Arizona today. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the most recent announcements in the culture. And maybe, some things on the horizon that we kind of got a little bit of word of, you know what I'm saying? Let's talk battlerap.com. As always, follow the show on LTBR Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good jazz. J-Smo, good morning on a Monday morning, all the way out in Arizona.
Good morning to you, brother. Always a pleasure, you know what I'm saying, to come up here and talk my shit a little bit and just talk about battles in general. It was a good event. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of good announcements going on. Looks like we're going to have a good fourth quarter. And if this is kind of maybe a little bit of that start of that ending run, I think we're starting out pretty well with probably one of URL's maybe better events of the year. So it's a super exciting weekend and super exciting couple months ahead.
Oh, before we get to the event, man, congratulations to you, man. You know what I'm saying? You survived France for a year, survived the LTBR team for a year. You really wanted to be a part of this team. You got to become a part of it. You realize how how chaotic all of us are. And then it was too late. You couldn't go back. You know what I'm saying? And so you made a year with the team this weekend. You started Traffic 5. That was your first event. And now Traffic 6 is all full circle. Sophomore year is here. No more whippings, no more lashings. You know what I'm saying? No more rookie hazing. You graduated.
No more Smo, do the whole card. We're tired. Send it by Tuesday. You got 36 hours, Smo. So we made it through a year of that. But no, man, love being a part of the team. I remember looking at Let's Talk Battle Rap as a fan, knowing how important it is, being a part of it, knowing how important it is. And there's nowhere I'd rather be in media, man. So hopefully it's the first year of many. It's a great feeling to be here for, you know what I'm saying, from one year to another.
Hey, listen, man, you did great work, and I'll never forget the way you handled your first event, Traffic 5, when you were doing all the live updates, because, early on in your career, like you have so much passion to want to cover battle rap and talk about battle rap that like you don't realize what do you do that like might be offensive to an artist. So when you were covering like Rum Nitty and Bill Collector last year, and you're doing all the live updates, it's so easy to get a quotable for Rum Nitty because Rum Nitty's just a compu box. He's just a punching machine. But Bill Collector has so many flows and cadences and pockets and unorthodox patterns that like it doesn't do him justice to just try to grab a quote. You need to actually listen to his sequences. So you didn't necessarily grab anything from Bill Collector, and he goes on the timeline like, "Yo, where's my quotes? Where's my bars at?" And then you handled it like a professional. I was like, "Yeah, he's made to be here, man."
Yeah, and shout out Bill. I know he still gives me a hard time for that one, man. But what's funny enough is a year later doing updates, a little bit, and a few people showed me love for this. So updating, but just saying what's going on, if it's an angle, if it's a rhyme pocket. It's not. I know that people want the bar quotes every time with the updates, but just if we kind of know what's going on in the battle, even if you can't explain the bar, giving credence to that, because even though it's easy to score punches, I know that's kind of you end up getting in the compu box in terms of judging battles, but there's more to that can't exactly just be explained in 2 to 3 bars, long setups and concepts. So over a year, learn to do that, but there's always going to be some feelings felt, especially, you know what I'm saying, if the building isn't going your way, it's easy to, you know what I'm saying, lash out a little bit. Yeah. So it's always going to be a part of the job, but I always love doing it, man. It's battle rap.
Bill Collector still has a vendetta, you know what I'm saying? Every time I see him, he's like, "You still got J-Smo on your staff? You ain't fired him yet?" I'm like, "Hey, yo, Bill, man, are you gonna write these recaps for me, Bill?" And I think that's your first rapper media relationship that's kind of like always just always is there. You guys be in the spaces. He comes in the space and he's like, "What's going on, Smo?" And you're like, "Hey, Bill, what's going on?" We always got one of those. So I'm glad you got that one. Tell the people how difficult it is to capture live updates while it's happening in real time, because I don't think the people realize it. Like when you're at home, it's a little bit more easy. You got the laptops, you're sitting down. Maybe you could rewind it and screen record and stuff. But in person, physically, talk about the difficulty of it. Because
I mean, I'll tell you what, the hardest part is you're not going to be able to physically with your eyes watch parts of the battle. You know what I'm saying? I'd say that's the part that funny enough, I was updating. I think it was JC and Authentic. And I know JB made a joke with me, man. Shout out JB. kind of was like, hey, have your head up. I'm in the front row, and he's like, man, watch. And, because we're doing the updates, and me and New Era, what I'm saying? Shout out Dutch and the team over there was doing their updates, and we're in the front row, but you got to capture it because as the bar goes up, people are going to want those punches, and it's hard to catch the setup too. You want to catch the rhyme with it because if I just post the punchline, it looks a little bit ridiculous with some of the shit that we say in battle rap. You know what I'm saying? Like if you only catch the back half of a bar, but leading up, catching the setup, catching 3 to 4 lines sometimes if it's a longer concept is definitely difficult. But it's even more difficult to wrap it. So at the end of the day, we have a way easier job than some of the artists and even some of the staff that are working the event. But I love doing it. I'm saying? I love giving people, especially battles that it might be a little bit months time. Who knows? I'm saying? When we see the battle, you need to have, even if people can't see it, there's still live camaraderie that goes on, people kind of reacting even if they didn't see, if they heard someone got smoked. That's all really important for the culture. We got to get these jokes off on the timeline. This is a joke-based culture. We got to get a little bit of slander or a little bit of praise. So it's definitely difficult. It takes away from being able to actually like just watch the battle straight up for enjoyment, but I wouldn't do it, if I didn't feel like it was important or if I didn't like battle rap. So
Yo, there's nothing like the timeline on a Saturday morning for a big event when everybody's hype, everybody's excited, and we all get to experience this battle in real time. And like the memes is flying, the jokes is flying, the clips is flying. Like that little part of the community, I feel like is what makes us for the most part. And more importantly, that was part of like what the community was like for almost 3 years. You know what I'm saying? From 2020 to now, we had all these live stream events from URL, RBE, and King of the Dot. For those who tuned in to King of the Dot, like the tournaments, you always had all these like people on the timeline just going crazy, and then your favorite content creators or voices in media doing post-game shows or spaces, and I feel like that's what it is when you don't have those days that is not live and you're in the building for it, and there's a limited amount of media or people with voices of influence providing us updates, trying to translate to us what's happening in that building where there's only a few hundred people there. We're itching. We're starving. We're refreshing our screen. We're scrolling down. We got your notifications turned on, and we're trying our best to piece the puzzles, but it's never fully quite the same.
And I 100% agree with that as someone that most of the time has to, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm on Arizona, so luckily for like an event like this, it's only 2 hours up the way from me. For the most part, a lot of the app only events are East Coast based, and I'm one of those thirsty motherfuckers on the timeline. Like, please, God, you know what I'm saying? Like, give me some type of updates. And I know what it feels like to even go 10, 15 minutes without it. So even if it's just one bar, it's talking about an angle, just trying to shoot out something every 5 or 10 minutes, and it makes sometimes, even though it's not a battle by any means, it makes people feel like they're there a little bit. It gives them a reason to care, and then it sticks in their mind as something to look forward to down the line. So it's all really important. It all goes towards the cycle of promoting an event and getting people excited about it.
Enough of the semantics, man. You know what I'm saying? Traffic 6, let's talk to the people about your experience in the building, who you met, people that you got, the people that recognized you, you know what I'm saying? The energy in the building. We'll talk about the battles too. I know you got a blog recapping, but we'll get a little bit more intense because, your boy got to hear some things. You know what I'm saying? I heard some of the same things that you heard. So, we can have a nice little dialogue. Tell me about your experience in Traffic 6.
Fantastic. And I say this every time I talk about my in the building experience for any event. For those of you that haven't been to battle rap events in person, you really don't understand the peak of what this culture is. You know what I'm saying? I know it's a culture can be rugged, toxicity. You see some craziness on the timeline. In-person battle rap events is the most love you will see anywhere in this culture.
It's nothing like the internet. It's nothing like the internet.
Media, from fans. Yeah. You're friends with everyone you're around for the night. You know what I'm saying? That's in your vicinity watching the battles with you. Every time I go front row, didn't see all members of Frontline up there. Shout out Frontline, almost at every URL event. But people I saw from last year, man, those are your people for the night, and you're rocking out watching battles for 6-7 hours. On top of that, venue was pretty good where you could walk all the way out to the back, and there was mostly battlers and even fans just kicking it out there in the back, and then you can walk back in, get your seat really easily. So it made for a good experience. You don't just have to sit there. I usually have to sit there and just hold my spot in the front row because the Lord knows, you know what I'm saying, I leave the front row, I'm probably not making it back, for instance, you know what I'm saying? So, but at this one, a lot of just back and forth, real leisure, and still a pretty good amount of people. I'm not going to lie, that first hour, I got a little nervous there, but then everything filled out really, really quick. I think mostly everyone must have been in the back, but it still ended up being like a pretty good amount of few hundred people, maybe 400 people maybe. But yeah, I mean, once again, another good in the building experience, and the battles were good, which always is going to help any event, help the pace of it. I didn't feel like there was really a dud straight. We'll talk maybe disappointing performances, this and that. But was there any disgusting battle? Was there any 3-round choke type of performance that took the air out of the room? There was none of that. So overall, in the building experience, it was as good as ever.
Holmesy and Brandon kicked off the night. champion, UM2 champ versus the UM4 champ. And this was a battle that you called disturbing. and,
Yes.
it exceeded your expectations.
It was a battle I did not need or like coming in. I gave it all the hell in the world, which is why, as I said in my recap video as well, gotta even apologize, especially to real name Brandon. A big reason, I'm going to be honest, I thought this battle might be a little worrisome going in. And they had a very good opener from one of the more competitive battles in the night. I wouldn't say the most competitive battle of the night, but definitely like a debatable battle with that, no question about it. The energy was good for it. Only issue, and the biggest issue, is the first round of the battle. There's mic issues. This did not continue pretty much through the second round, and really didn't become an issue throughout the rest of the night. But in the first round, it was super duper prevalent. Real name Brandon's mic was going in and out, and especially Holmesy. I'd say about 60 to 70% of the crowd did not hear Holmesy's first round. I mean, I'm talking to people that are only a little bit behind me, saying that they did not hear his first at all, and they were a little bit behind me on front row. So imagine what the back of the entire venue, the sides of the venue was like. But a debatable first round nonetheless. I'd say that Brandon did have stumbles in his first. He had a couple stumbles that kind of mixed with the mic issues, if that makes sense. Like, he's stumbling, but then the mic's going in and out. So the sound man comes up. So I don't know if it's a choke, because it gets covered up. But he was a little unclean the first 2 rounds, but that shouldn't take away from his material. Brandon's second and third of this battle, some of his more powerful material I feel like he's had on a real competitive, this can win a battle, which has been for me an issue for Brandon for a little bit. Even if he has a good round, it's about putting 2 together, and that's how a lot of his clear losses have stacked up. His second, outside of a very suspect stumble, we'll see how they'll translate on cam, because the building didn't seem to care. A lot of people had Brandon winning the first clear. And then even in the second, they were very, very even with the stumble and press, but him and Holmesy peak in the second round of the battle is by far the best. What did Holmesy say, man? They say bipolar this and bipolar that so they can attack me until I'm in their house on some bipolar shit, mad guns, and I'm trigger happy. Ended up being one of the most quoted updates I had from the event. So, and I think Holmesy said it was his favorite bar. But the first 2 rounds to me were mad debatable, man. I know the building was leaning Brandon. I personally edged Holmesy the first 2 rounds of the battle, and then Brandon clearly got the third. His third is his best round of the battle. A lot of real talk, a lot of rapping with substance, which I really think is at his best. Made a believer of me, man.
Yeah, I think I want to do like a big picture with some of these battles. So I think with Brandon, the big picture here is that he's getting better. You know what I'm saying? He's getting better.
Sure.
The J Mills battle definitely shows some highlights. Obviously the opponent made me side-eyed a little bit, bombastic side-eye. But like this one is a good, sound like it was a good John. You know what I'm saying? Sound like it was a good John. And Holmesy, back-to-back battles for him. He's battling in London in about 6-7 days from now. So hopefully he's clipped up. He had that battle booked for quite some time, so hopefully he's probably all the way finished. But back on the road for Holmesy the God, and sounds like a standard Holmesy performance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't, and especially in a battle that I kind of expected him to win extremely clearly. I mean, you can't not going to hold it against him that his opponent was good by any means. You know what I'm saying? Especially when he was good himself. But even in the third round, as an angle heavy guy, he took a real name angle, like who uses their real name for crime, and broke down. It was a long concept with the whole real name thing, and it was just like a little long-winded in parts of the battle, kind of like the overhead rhymes or a little bit of long-winded concepts, and that's something he can get caught up in. But it was like you said, he's a professional at the end of the day, and his second has peaks. Just a standard Holmesy, nothing to really critique him for, but not a high ranking or anything like super.
If it was more like Holmesy rises to the occasion for like a specific moment, as opposed to being the person that's like, yo, defend the crown. This is somebody that you are more skilled, experienced than, have hit higher levels than, you should be able to clear this person. I think when he's in that position, you find him having competitive battles. But when he's in the position of like, this is somebody that might be ranked above you, a top tier legend, you know what I'm saying? Somebody that's fairly active that, we might have ahead of you. That's when you kind of see him like really like rise to the occasion.
Yeah, it's in other sports. I think the term is like play down to comp, but you also got to give credit to Brandon for playing up to the situation. You know what I'm saying? Maybe
Yeah.
for a lot of
Yes.
people at home, they clear going in, and then he ends up having by far the round of the battle, probably as a whole, had the better performance. Like his 3 rounds compared to his, I don't even know if that's debatable, but when you factor in the stumbles, don't be surprised that building had real name Brandon. But I think a lot of people might have that home C2-1 on Cam in those first 2. But second, extremely debatable. So then the battle ends up being debatable.
All right. Shotgun Suge and Hansel, right? I want to talk about this before we get
Now we're
into the
getting
battle.
into it.
Yeah, now we're gonna get into it for real because I seen Suge's interview on Hip Hop Is Real, where he pretty much talks a little bit about like, he was contracted for 2 minutes and Hansel rapped about 3 or more. And I have an issue with that interview, and I have an issue with the way Hip Hop Is Real titled it. Hip Hop Is Real titled it Shotgun Suge on Time Issues versus Hansel. I was contracted for 2 minutes. He rapped for 3, right? Let's make it clear. Let's make it clear. It doesn't sound like this is a situation like Rum Nitty and Foots, where one person has a contract for a longer time than the other person. There's not a time dispute, a clear-racial issue with this. This is just a fundamental battle rap world where, you're battling somebody that's very hungry. We're contracted for a certain time limit, but I'm gonna rap extra. You know what I'm saying? And Suge says in that video that we had a conversation about it, and yet he still let Hansel rap longer. So in my opinion, I'm just kind of like, bruh, the leagues don't call time. I wish they did. I wish leagues enforced it, but that's gone. They haven't done that for over a decade now. So you can't expect the league to try to call time, right? You're not going to expect your opponent to do anything favorable to you. So I don't even know why people even have these conversations with their opponent. Your opponent is not meant to do any favors for you. The hell? Especially if they know they can take advantage of you in that aspect, they're going to. So it's up to you to call time. And if you don't call time, I feel like you shouldn't complain afterwards. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I had talked about that as well. And I 100% agree with you on that note, is that you have the option, especially as the vet, to call time. No. We signed a 2-minute contract. You're done. And I know that a lot of, it involves you kind of having to play the villain. So then it is kind of, oh, what if I sacrifice my optics for something that really he should be doing already? I'm with you, but then he's just going to rap 3 to 4 minutes, man. Like then you just got to live with that. And the second part of it is vets. When you're battling a rookie in a 3-rounder and you get contracted for 2 minutes, think about when you were a rookie battling a vet. All right. Were you going to rap that exact 2 minutes? Were you going to sprinkle a couple minutes on? It's basic battle rap, man. I don't think that it's a shocker at all. If you're expecting these rookies to come in with 2-minute rounds, I think that we're kind of shocked with that mindset. Is it necessarily fair? No. But if you're going to play the situation, if you're going to know it's going to be this way going in, then either don't take the battle or take it and write the extra minute. Like, I don't understand. It's like coming in with a sense of the minimum effort, right? Because it is a 2-minute contract. You're fulfilling it, but you know going in what they're going to do. So if you're not going to stop the time, there is no one that can help you at that point. I mean, that's just the way that it is. So I agree with you on all fronts.
I want to reference Shotgun Suge here, right? 2014, July 26th, the UW Annihilation card, okay? A young Shotgun Suge in his career, when he wasn't that active on URL, by the way, he's probably battling URL maybe once or twice a year. He still wasn't one of those guys. All right. He hadn't touched the Summer Madness yet. He's still trying to find his peak. He battled a T-Rex in 2014. This is T-Rex coming off of Total Slaughter. And you know what T-Rex did in that whole battle? Time. I don't care if this is your shot. You getting what I got paid for. You're rapping what you got paid for.
You didn't even give him a third round, if I'm correct. That's a 2-round battle.
So like that there's a perfect example of you being the hungry up and comer battling the person giving you the shot, ready to out rap them longer than what's contracted. So you have to realize you know what it's like to be Hansel at that moment in time. You know that he is going to come there to make the most out of his opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not going to take the liberty of enforcing and regulating what you signed for and what you guys agreed and spoke on prior to the battle, what's the point of mentioning it afterwards? All it does is discredit Hansel. All it does is continue to feed the narrative that like there's these purposeful time discrepancies going on amongst the league. And that's why I didn't like the Hip Hop Is Real title neither, because it kind of feeds on, it plays on into it, almost insinuated that this is still happening and it's happening with the top 6 guys. No, that's not the case. It's not the case at all. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I thought about all that and I was just I was just intrigued. You know what I'm saying? Because
You
it's
know what's
like,
funny, France? The
yeah,
funniest part, if Hansel had cut specifically his last 2 rounds down to 2-minute rounds like Suge, he probably still would have clearly won the battle, which is what occurred. Really, really breakout performance, and it didn't start like that in the first round.
yeah.
I
Let's
think,
let's, let's give Hansel his props. I just wanted to address that time.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
Hansel does good in the first round. Solid back-to-back punching round, but more of that of what you'd see, I'd say maybe with like a regular Hansel round. I think for the most part, it has its peaks, it has its valleys. It's mostly jabs, and it's just like a serviceable round. And Suge has, I'd say, is slightly shorter. So I'd say Hansel's first must have been, I'm not going to say around the 2 minute, maybe a little bit over that. Because Suge's first is more efficient and more compact, but it's also not wildly a shorter round. You know what I mean? And he clearly does better for the most part in the first. He's just more efficient with his time. His energy is better, as you'd expect. The flow, the pace. He's better
yeah,
in a lot
because
of those aspects than Hansel, and he really like
yeah,
shows that in the first round.
I heard you said the first round was close. I disagree with you though. I did feel like the first round Shotgun Suge was steamrolling him. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think I'm impressed with Hansel's performance, because I really felt like he got put in the dirt in that first round.
You really
And he
think
roasted
so?
it. That's how I felt. That's how I felt. You know what I'm saying? I'm just giving you how I feel. You know, you might feel differently,
We
but
all gave it to Suge, but it was one of
yeah,
those things where I'll put it like this. I didn't feel like he put him in the dirt, but I feel like we should all unanimously have Suge win in the first. Like, even if, let's say it's like a 10-9, maybe even in the 10-8-ish direction, but let's say it even is a 10-9, it's a universal one. Because sometimes rounds can be close, but you really can't give it to him unless you're a fan of the other battler. And then how close is it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I account for that in updates, but in reality, I agree with you. I think it is a little bit closer, but either way, that is Suge's first. The building gave it to Suge. It felt like it. But the second and the third were a completely different story. You know what I'm saying? From a Hansel turned it up in every aspect of battle rap. Hansel immediately took a step up, and it reminds you a lot more of a Hansel versus Eunice performance, as opposed to maybe the more regular Hansel you get in the first. A lot of flipping of Shotgun Suge slogans, which when you battle a vet, flipping their best bars and their best slogans against them, haymakers, pencil it in. Everyone does it, you know what I'm saying? And he did it. You think that the hospital, they gonna care if your skull bleeding. You ain't got no slogans. Well, you ain't got no pulse
no
neither.
loss
You know
either. Yeah,
oh
yeah,
my
yeah.
God. He had a few
And
the first 2
yeah,
minutes of his second. That's the funny thing. We talk about the 2 minutes. If it was just the first 2 minutes of his second, he would have won by more. I think he kind of wrapped himself a little bit down a little bit
out
as
of
the
it.
round went on. And I wouldn't even say out of it because it didn't ruin it. I still loved his second, but the first 2 to 2:30 of Hansel's second is insane. Like 9 out of 10
No,
level
no.
material.
But that's why I don't want to say that first round was competitive, because I really felt like there's some level of perseverance from what he did in his second round and his third round, and that's why I think it's a bit remarkable that he's had this breakout performance. Because at the end of the day, Hansel, out of all the rookies, sophomores, up and comers, he's the purest version of it, because he has like less than 20 battles to his catalog, right? If I pull up his verse tracker, he just started battling in 2021. So, like, if there's anybody we need to be patient with, it's him. You know what I'm saying? But he's also the mouthpiece in the heart of his crew, or not his crew, I should say his class. So, like, you see him online, you see him vocal, you see him coming at the vets. So, when you become that person, we kind of expect you to show up in these spots. And so, even though he was winning battles, the performances weren't necessarily the most, I guess, dynamic or in the fashion that I was necessarily anticipating. So, it left me with a little bit, it left me with some desire, but I was still noticing that he was winning. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you go back to that 3-on-3 with all the people from Top 6 versus Jersey, he's the only one that got around. You know what I'm saying? When you go back to their finals exams, he's the one that caught a body. You know what I'm saying? And then you look at his judge win against Eunice, one of the better battles this year. It's a judge winning. That might even be a preview to what to expect for rookies versus sophomores. And so he's still leveling up. So it's very frequent we might be able to continuously say he's had another career high performance, because he isn't close to his ceiling. He can still keep reaching other levels. I love that he wrote uphill, and I love that he stood poised enough to stand the storm of a Suge first round and find a way to win the last 2 rounds. I got to give Hansel his credit. Big salute to that guy.
And I thought
probably top 5 performer of the night, right? Probably like a top 5 performer of the
easily.
night.
And I thought his second, I'm like, this might be the best hands around that I've heard. And then he wrapped his third, and I'm like, no, this might be the best Hansel round that I heard. I mean, his second, as you said, uphill writing, a lot of times so underrated. Really how a lot of people just win battles. They kind of just outlast their opponent, especially when your third is the last impression that you have and you just gave a competitive second. It's a recipe to win battles clear a lot, especially when you might be the more motivated of the two ops, which by the time you get to Suge second and third, that 2 minutes really sets in. Like, they're not like bad rounds, but they're very just run-of-the-mill rounds, while you have a guy that's, clearly just blowing the roof off the building. So Hansel, second and third, clear. Like you and me both said, we gave Suge the first. I think it's a little bit closer than maybe you thought. But either way, I mean, it's a clear W for Hansel in a big spot where he needed it. And when he was asked to be good, he was great. And those are the achievements to climb the ladder when it comes to battle rap. So shout out to Hansel.
Shotgun Suge, you know what I'm saying? Last big picture before we go to the next battle. Because I don't have a lot to say about JC and Authentic. I didn't get a chance to really get, say any rumblings on it. But I want to say about Suge. Last year, 2022, an aberration for him, right? Ended up being top 5 in Cody, top 4 in Cody, actually. An amazing year to the point people actually felt like he deserved the award. He was booked 9 times last year. And so far this year, he's been booked 7 times. So between 2 years, he's got 16 battles on the league, and I can't help but feel like this year he's reverted back to who he once was. You know what I'm saying, or who he was before that run. Because out of his 7 battles, rough night at Kings and Queens against Shuni, rough night at Summer Madness against Fonz. You know what I'm saying? I think I have Hansel taking advantage of this opportunity more than Suge. That Gnome Impact 2-on-2 was something very strange from that I never want to see again. And I love his performance against Kyd Slade, but outside of that, the other 2 performances I'm not that crazy about. The Sheed battle and that 3-on-3. So a bit of a regression for Suge, or back to what he once was.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a bit of a regression back to the battler that he's been in years past. Still talented, still has his peaks, but in terms of bringing it across 3 rounds, there's a little bit less of that. You know what I'm saying? You see a guy that kind of gasses out later as the battle goes on. Tough situation, you know what I'm saying? For, especially considering some of the matchups he's taking, especially coming off of last year, how built up, you know what I'm saying, his stock was in the bigger matchups. To go from that to this, it could definitely stifle the motivation a little bit. I think it's still possible. The ability's there. His pen is still upgraded. You see that in his peaks. But right now, it definitely seems like a little bit more of a burnout type of thing than anything else. And I just hope that he can find that maybe with some upcoming matchups or possibly some opponents in the future, can find a little bit of that more, bringing it across 3 rounds. But when you see things like stumbles on SM physically, stumbling on SM in grudge matches, it does get to be a bit worrisome.
7-2 app record last year with his 9 battles. This Hansel battle hasn't dropped yet on the app, but it might be a loss. It might be a loss. It could be a win. Who knows? We'll see. But the record doesn't reflect. And it's crazy is that he's the most booked battler so far this year in the league, and he's hinting that he might be on Homecoming. He's dropping some hints. So the year's not over for Suge. There still might be one more. So we will see. We'll see. JC and Authentic, I don't personally have that much to say, so I'll let you take the floor on it whenever you return back to the screen. Time out. All right, so look, I'll continue on Suge in the meantime. So listen, man, and I'm not trying to pile on Suge. All right, I know what y'all saying. Oh, here comes France again, pulling out these numbers and stuff. No, it's the volume that's bruh, you know what it is to be booked this many times and the production not necessarily meet the criteria of what you're looking at right here. It's just kind of crazy to me, where it's just damn, man, I'm happy that he's being fed this much, but it also feels like he's just kind of being overworked a little bit. And out of all his big stage battles, I didn't like any of those performances. I didn't like him versus Shuni. I didn't like him on Gnome Pack. I didn't like him on Summer Madness. So am I gonna like him on Homecoming? I mean, if he's on Homecoming, because I seen him winking. And I know what that means. I know what that means very well. You know what I'm saying? I saw it on Hip Hop Is Real, him dropping those little clues. And they have it on the members only page. If you're not a members only, go ahead and subscribe to that. I seen him dropping those little gems, and I'm just like, bruh, if this man's on Homecoming after the year he's had, he can do no wrong. But damn. Save me before I keep talking about Suge.
Yeah. But with that being said, next battle was JC versus Authentic, which I would say is some of the. I'll put it like this. I can't say it's a bad battle by any means, especially got good reception in the building. I'd say out of all the footage, it might be the weakest, still solid. You know what I'm saying? But out of all the battles, I definitely think it was the one that gave the least maybe explosiveness, peak moments, or talking points. And I think the first round of the battle has a lot to do with that, to be honest. I thought that JC got out to a very explosive lead on Authentic. I thought Authentic's first ends up being his lightest round of the battle, which can be problematic, especially when you're already reviewed as like the underwhelming A side going into the battle. And the building, as the battle went on, I began to kind of differ from the building opinion-wise. I thought the second was closer. I thought the first JC kind of clearly just punches him out. The second was closer, and Authentic had a movie studio scheme that landed like super crazy. Paramount, Warner Bros, a bunch of peak bars. But I thought JC kind of matched him and superseded that. I just thought not just bar-wise, which is what you expect from JC, but performance-wise or the full JC effect was going on. I thought he was out to a really clear 2-0 lead. The third is the closest of the battle. Authentic has a great third. What did he say? How did JC walk on water, but died trying to body surf or died trying to surf? That was crazy.
I think it's crazy that JC's battled like a million times in surfing. Nobody said that. Like, damn, it was right. It was right there for the taking.
Crazy that I think that JC's has his hardships post surf battle, but it's so many bars. It seems like people can still get off just from the loss to surf. Little bit of an unfortunate situation for him up to this point, but obviously JC shows in fashion, especially when he's battling as the upper A side. I feel like, you know what I'm saying, he pretty dominantly had control of the battle from first to third. The third is debatable. A lot of people actually gave Authentic the third in the building clear. I still thought though that JC was punching with them. I edged JC the third and gave him the first two clear. So I personally had JC 3-0, which others in the building had, but I got to give credence to the other perspectives, right? And I will say there was a good amount of people that thought Authentic got the third and the second might have been a toss-up. Really, that both of the second and the third might have been a toss-up. So I would be lying if I said I didn't hear some debatables in the building. But knowing how JC's material age is, seeing just the way he was handling not only the room, but material-wise, he's still probably landing. It gets to a point where you can kind of try to dismiss, like, oh, it's a jab, dismiss it. But when he's landing, there's a little something every bar. You can't just keep ignoring it. And that's a big reason why on cam, he ends up getting a lot of those W's, is because there is a lot of like, there's just too many for me to not count. So pretty solid Authentic performance. Building seemed to be happy with him. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to keep getting you booked and getting you opportunities. But I thought that JC, was a true vet in this one and got this 2-1, if not 3-0.
Yeah. 28 for JC here. 2017, when he came back to URL, was on Summer Madness 6. 2018 was on Gnome and Summer Madness that year, so that's good for him. 2019 wasn't on either of the two. 2020 wasn't on either of the two. 2021 was on Gnome. 2022 was on Gnome and Summer Madness. This year, neither of the two. So, and it's just crazy to think, like, last year, Gnome, Judge battle, winning $100,000, and then headline Summer Madness, and now here we are. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough, man. It's tough. You know what I'm saying? I'm just here to present the big picture thoughts, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little toxic this Monday morning. I'm sorry. But, appreciate JC for always being a warrior. You know what I'm saying?
It's definitely a tough situation. And it sucks because they're actually doing what, and JC and Suge, they're doing a service given these shots. You know what I'm saying? And it really does not. And you look at the perspective right here, it's the polar opposite.
Oh no!
Right?
Suge's getting the service done for him. All right. All right. The man hasn't missed a card all year.
But in terms of stock, though, you know what I'm saying? When we talk about JC with a clear win and right, Suge with a clear loss, hypothetically speaking, right? In my perspective, you see JC's not going to gain much from this, but on the flip side, Suge will get slandered while Hansel gets this huge career win, and that's kind of the risk of taking these shots, especially and it can look kind of crazy for two guys that we're just on bigger stages, right? Suge on a SM and then JC on the SM before. And it's so easy to just, in the way that we are in this culture, because like I said in the beginning, it's all about jokes, and the jokes are always going to be there. I mean, that's just part of it. It doesn't even have to be a hateful nature. They're always going to be there. But it does put battlers in a position. I do want to salute guys that give out shots like a JC or like a Suge, because obviously it opens them up for maybe some of the slander that could come. But this is the way that we get a Hansel to get to the next level. This is the way that we could, Authentic could have potentially had a breakout, or any vet or any rookie you've ever seen that went on to be a vet, anyone that went on to be top tier. They needed somebody to take a risk, and they probably needed someone to take a risk and get smoked for them to ascend to the next level. So obviously, you know what I'm saying? If you feel like these battles, like these vets lost, and when the battle comes out, no issue with that. It should never be an issue to critique if you feel like someone took an L clear. But remember that it's not this humongous fall off or this and that. They're doing something that's very necessary for us to get the battlers that we're going to root for later to get to that spot. So, L, W, or L, got to give them their shout out too, while we also slander them a little bit.
Well, moving on, let's talk about the Sheed and Danny Myers, because this is the one I really want to have a conversation about.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough one. Definitely a tough one, I'd say, for Sheed. That's the first thing I got to say about this battle up front. Danny was, and this battle I thought was going to be a battle of the night, coming in, battle of the night contender. I didn't have it in that pick, but I thought Danny versus Sheed very easily for some people was going to be that pick. Just straight bar for bar energy, how Danny usually brings his energy, and then someone like Sheed that's animated matching that. And that's how I thought it would play out. And I'd say right from the first round, that's not how it was playing out, France. Danny Myers went first and was smoking Sheed in the first round. I mean, that's just really the reality of it. Back-to-back punching reminds me a bit of his Souffleur Soul performance. In terms of just the power punchingness of it, definitely it's a different leap from a Danny who has, 35 battles this year, something like that. And then immediately from the first round, you can tell this is probably going to be one of the better Dannys that you've seen this year. Just Sheed's first is good, but it's more on the sly, witty back-to-back side, and ends up not, you got to match peaks, you got to match energy. And he wasn't really doing any of the things you'd expect from Sheed in this situation to do. You get into the second round, Danny cools down a little bit, and Sheed probably rises a little bit, but doesn't meet the peak. You know what I'm saying? He probably jabs to the point that the round is close. He's consistent, and Danny didn't really snatch it, but he didn't snatch the energy. Like, you can make it close, but at this point, you got to look beyond that. You got to snatch the energy of this room back, because you could argue 1-1, but me and many argued 2-0. And then you get to the third, and it might be the worst of them all. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the lopsidedness, Danny has 3 rebuttals, insane rebuttals. The room is entirely his. He can do no wrong. Back-to-back punching, chain punching, pockets, everything. I mean, he's really just styling on him at this point. And then Sheed gets into a like an angle, like a kind of a deep introspective, the parallel, I think, between Danny and his daughters. And Danny's daughter, the whole angle about Danny's daughter.
Now
it breaks that down.
I want to cut you off here. I want to cut you off here because I did get to hear New Era's podcast recap as well. So shout outs to Dutch and Freddie, who was in the building. And they had very, very, very similar sentiments to what you're saying. And I want to ask you, do you think this is a situation that on camera you will feel differently about? Because, it sounds like you guys both feel the same, but I'm wondering is like, she's a layered writer, so I can at least expect to find something I like from him. But
yeah, it's not a bad round. But here's the thing, and this is the thing about building energy, right? It doesn't, getting not cheered doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have good material, but you have an opponent who up to this point has completely controlled the pace of the battle, which is on you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a competition, and he has outcompeted you up to this point. And the thing is, when he's controlling the pace, he's dictated, I'm punching back to back. This building, they're waiting for haymakers because I just gave him 7 of them, 8 of them back to back. And now you, after having a battle where you haven't matched his peaks, decide to take a much more drawn out, much more, you have to be with me for a minute or two here for me to get there. You have kind of lost all the benefit of the doubt to lead up to that. Now, does that mean that it's not a good round? No, I think Sheed, while he had, in my opinion, probably the most disappointing performance of the card, to be honest with you, I wouldn't even say that he had a bad performance. He was clean. His second is good. I mean, I would say there was points where I was like, almost like he's wilding in the second. But your first is a little regular, no other way to put it. And then your third, there's a good concept there, but it's just about the time. You're at the bottom of the third. You have none of the building on your side. You've already lost another round clear. You barely made the last one debatable. He just didn't have the room to pull that off. So you may enjoy it. I think people will enjoy it. But in terms of he still lost by a large margin, I don't think that comes down to the building being one-sided. I think that comes down to the fact that you didn't have any of the energy on your side when you took a long angle. And that can happen to any battle rapper in the world.
So I was doing some thinking about this, and I had two big thoughts, right? One of them, and we're also going to talk about Sheed's year too, because I have a lot to say about that. But one of the thoughts I had was Sheed was in this exact same venue a year ago against Kid Chaos, and we walked out of there saying this was one of the best battles of the year. Why a year later he struggled, right? In the exact same venue, the exact same spot. And I've realized it. It's just a style matchup, bro. You look at Danny Myers versus Kid Chaos. Everything that you just described about Sheed is the exact same way that I feel like Danny Myers and Kid Chaos played out. You're battling somebody that's a bit more structural, a bit more, I want to say drawn out, but obviously has to paint a picture a little bit more than you. Is not going to get to a punch as rapid as you. And when Danny Myers has his energy, relentlessness going, and he's dictating the pace, and you can't keep up with that pace, there's going to be a separation being created. And that was in a small room, and
Absolutely.
you can feel. And that was in a small room, and everything you described just now and the stage feels very similar to that battle. And then Kid Chaos and Sheed obviously had a great battle themselves together, but that style in itself might not be able to just handle the bar god, you know what I'm saying? And that's what it sounded like that happened to Sheed, honestly. It sounds like he just had a good concept, had good writing, but Danny's pacing kind of just
overwhelmed. That's the best word I could use, is that at one point it was just like it was a race, and you're just seeing someone just run just faster, you know what I'm saying, as the race goes on. So I will say though, for Sheed, someone that I've said, we've done the big picture, someone that I've said has everything to be a top tier talent when it comes to battle rap, especially out of the UM4 class. When you look at him compared to some of his other classmates, I thought him and Slade, who we'll talk about in a little bit, in a bit of a similar light, I thought that they were both the standouts of their class. And I think that Sheed still is good. I'm not, pulling the plug on Sheed or panicking, but this was a matchup where Danny usually is very helpful in pushing. I mean, obviously he's kind of smoked a couple new guys as well, you know what I'm saying? And this situation is more of that category, but Danny has tend to bring like great performances out and help a lot of new guys get to the next level, or upcoming battle rappers. I shouldn't even say new guy at this point with Sheed, right? But upcoming battle rapper that we should say. And I thought this one really would show the separator. Would have liked to see a little bit more from Sheed.
I disagree with you heavily, Smo. I think there is a time to panic. I think it is time to panic because at the beginning of the year, and look, this is real early in the year when I see some performances that like alarmed me a little bit. They gave me a bit of red flags. You guys told me, hey, just chill out. It's not that big of a deal. He'll bounce back. But when I saw his Suge battle at Outside, yeah, it was a 2-day weekend, but this is Suge coming off of Cody. So this is like Suge at his like red hottest, you know what I'm saying? Electric. And Sheed is a very dynamic performer coming off a battle of the year contender with Kid Chaos. Their battle was underwhelming. And maybe you can want to blame the timing of it, but in my head, I was just like, yo, this should have been a real electric battle, and it wasn't. I raised my eyebrow towards it. Then the Bill Collector battle, it wasn't a bad battle, but best believe because it was a battle that he was climbing up to, and everybody like envisioned him taking on. Like at the beginning of the league, it should have been more. So
it was
now
good,
I'm looking at it.
It wasn't. I don't even say it's lackluster, but I get that was a moment battle, a career battle.
Neither of the two are lackluster battles. They just left me with a lot to be desired, and they were big opponents and big moments for him. So I'm just like, damn, bro, like these are moments where I'm expecting you to catapult into something. You know what I'm saying? Gnome Pack, I think he had a nice little ISO. They looked pretty good, but that whole 2-on-2 was a lot. You know what I'm saying? That battle was an hour plus long. I don't know why I'm watching a 2-on-2 for an hour plus long. And then he battled 40 bars in Martinis, and I didn't like his material in that battle at all. So now I'm just kind of like, yo, what's going on? Like now like in Martinis, you're having issues. Your big opponents on URL. I don't see you translating. And his best win this year is against a B Magic that, kind of didn't care about the battle. So now I'm just like, yo, what's going on?
Had 60 seconds between 3 rounds. He read the contract different.
So now I'm just kind of like, yo, hold on. Like, this is the guy that I called most improved last year, and I don't feel like he improved at all this year. I feel like he took a step back.
I mean, it's and at the end of the day, it sounds like a harsh critique, but the work is speaking for itself. You know what I'm saying? When you have to take the next level, where at least, and technically, these are good results, right? Like you can debate that he beat Shotgun Suge. You can debate that he had beat Bill Collector. I'm one of those people that
And
would
I'm wearing,
debate.
look, I rock with Sheed. Look, I rock with Sheed the long way. You know what I'm saying? I am most definitely not selling my stock. I am just saying I see the price going down, and I'm a little alarmed. That's all I'm saying.
The footage quality, the results, you can technically argue the right way, right? But there's definitely, at the end of the day, you got to get the wins or at least the good results, and you got to get the footage. We got to be able to rewatch the battle, or there's not really too much to talk about, because ugly wins aren't gonna move the needle forever either. So with Sheed, has all the talent in the world. Nobody's saying that he doesn't, but it's time to go get you one with probably one of the bigger names. That's either a great back and forth on camera, or it's a performance where I said Sheed happened to snatch the energy out of that building. And until then, the questions begin to become more worrisome, as Francis kind of alluding to here.
Listen, man.
And shout out
Big
Danny too. We didn't talk about Danny, but he caught listen, Danny this year, you battled so much, man. You battled going he's nearing, he could get to 40. I don't know if he'll get to 40, but he could get to 40 battles, which would be astronomically biblical. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know what to describe battling 40 times in 1 year, but one of his better performances of the year. I've been a little critical of Danny at times. He's battling a lot. It's not a lot of impact. There's at times I don't think the material is always the craziest. He's just kind of handling business as a pro versus a lot of non-pros, but Sheed is a pro, and he treated him like a non-pro, and there always has to be praise for that. It's up there with this Flair showing for sure.
And I want to say this. I want to say this to Sheed, right? Because I feel like I don't want this to be heard and be like, yo, you're being harsh on these critiques or these performances. It's that last year I saw a guy that was pretty much a coin flip away from possibly beating JC to go to Gnome. Right. I saw a guy that was once upon a time almost booked to battle K-Shon on Summer Madness till K-Shon decided not to do it last minute. So this is a guy that was very close and ready to be on both of those stages last year. And I really felt like he would have excelled. And last year, I can confidently say every single time I seen him hit the stage, he got better. This year, I can't confidently say that. And the competition is kind of raised a bit. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm just like, yo, the competition is getting harder. I don't feel like you're improving. And more importantly, I feel like you're not meeting the new standard that you set for yourself. That means that's a very big compliment that I view you as you're supposed to be probably one of the 20 best battle rappers out right now, for real. That's how I see you as, you know what I'm saying? So that's all, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Once you become great, I guess there's expectations, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, listen, man, at the end of the day, it's only, I could talk a few different ways about that I view really either of their years, but I'm big on in the result moments, and I gave Danny especially a lot of critique coming in, and he handled business the complete opposite direction. I gave Sheed a lot of praise going in, and when we critique, it's not flipping the energy, it's not switching up, it's something new happened, and I have to talk about that, and that's just
and I've been consistent. I've been saying this all year, though. I've been saying this all year. I'm like, bruh.
The truth of the matter, man.
You know, so I ain't selling my stock. I'm still holding on. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a little concerned. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little concerned. That's all I'm saying. I want to talk about Danny. I'm not the Danny. Geechi and Jay last. Can we fast forward to Nitty and Kyd Slade?
We absolutely can fast forward to Nitty and Kyd Slade, even though it did end up going on last for those that didn't know, in a sense. And let's be real, with battle rap, like main events and like filing it, no one actually knows what they're talking about half of the time. But like, this is the main event, that's the main event. That night they said it's the main event, but it probably won't.
Yeah, I know people. I know some people.
Like,
I know some people associate the main event with who goes last. I don't. I associate the main event with how was this marketed, how was this presented, who was on the flyer, because that was
actually getting paid to be the main event. Just so people know that, you know, and there's always, and that what I'm saying right now is not going to stop anything. People are still going to just be wrong loudly or be right quietly, however they want to go about it. But it is worth noting that Nitty and Slade did end the night. And you could tell, I'm going to say this, just from the intros of this battle, you could just tell what was about to, it felt like what was about to go down. They announced, yo, my brother Kyd Slade, I think maybe 4 of us. I'm clapping. I think 3 other people let out a woo. And then they announced Rum Nitty's name. And it's like, it was like a football team just ran on the field. You know what I'm saying? It was complete, you could tell, home game to the core. But even with that, I think that's just, we're going to talk about that optically. But this battle from the first round to the third round, it is not close. It is not close at all. And I don't even think Kyd Slade was that bad in this battle. I think he's solid. I liked his. I think some people liked his third the most. I personally thought his first 2 rounds were a little better, a little cleaner. He starts stumbling in the third, but he has some good material. He's going to need a skin graft. Looked like they ironed out a bubble coat. I thought that was crazy. Like he's got some bars like that.
The slushy bar.
Yeah, like he's got some bars where it's even got some imagery on top of the fact Slade is just a cold rapper. Like his delivery is just cold. Like it's very, very good. But content-wise, it's not close. I mean, Rum Nitty, first round is a haymaker, back-to-back punching onslaught. Second round is his best round of the battle, and maybe the best round.
Sprinkle in some angles. Sprinkle in some angles, though.
Yeah, also, obviously, battling Kyd Slade, the snitching angle is going to come up. The court document angle is going to come up. And not only do you give Rum Nitty now all your name flips, now you give him, rat, snitch, narc. He had a Narcan bar. If y'all don't think the last person that told came back from getting drug, what makes y'all think a narc can do it? So when you get the angle, obviously you get name flips of the angle to open up a little bit. But overall, man, when it was pretty much working the angle, the obvious angle, and just punching regular Rum Nitty stuff. And for Rum Nitty, regular Rum Nitty stuff ends up being performance of the night level material.
Let me ask you something. Obviously, crowd reaction plays a factor, but did it feel like Rum Nitty's rounds were longer than Kyd Slade? So it felt like that to me. It felt like, he's not fucking around today. He's not fucking around.
And I'm not even going to say Nitty had and longer rounds to people can mean a lot of different things. Nitty did not come in here with no 5 or 7 minute rounds. It's nothing of that nature. But Nitty definitely had 3 to 4 minute rounds, and then when you add the fact that he's getting a lot more reaction than Slade is, which is just the truth. Now you add minutes, maybe a minute and a half extras round. Now it starts to feel like, damn, this man just rapped like 7 minutes to 3 or something like that. But in dominant battles, you're going to find that across most leagues that you're going to see something like that, man. At the end of the day, if one guy's winning by a lot, he's going to get a lot more reaction. He's going to get a lot more leeway. A lot more of the crowd stopping him. But yeah, there's not really much it felt like Slade could do either, if I got to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I'm not saying he was the most formidable. Slade probably could have been a bit better. But I didn't think that he was bad. While him and Sheed were both disappointing, I think I'd prefer his performance over Sheed's performance. But this was a mismatch, and it's one of those things where, shout out to Slade, I was very confident that he'd get around going in, or at least be one of the best versions of himself, someone that I think is from UM4, my personal top talent from that class. I think he really has something different. And he's been good against vets so far. Obviously, the Rock battle is covered in all types of controversy, but a lot of people are saying it's a competitive battle for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's a good or a bad battle, it's not easy to have a competitive battle with a Tay-Rock. Versus Suge, I thought he did good. People are high in his Cortez performance, right? But Rum Nitty in Arizona, this was a bit of a suicide mission, France. I know that we've talked about this one a little bit, but I didn't see this one working out for Slade in the booking. I thought it was an uphill scenario, and it played out probably just about as bad as it could have played out for him. And maybe the rare Nitty body bag. I don't know how you felt about it, but it was definitely clear all 3. And probably Crown Nitty's performer of the night.
I have a lot of thoughts. All right. First and foremost,
let us know.
I understand there's going to be a world of battle rap that is it's entrenched into the streets, right? The ethics, the code, and they're just never going to rock with him, and that's fine. I'm not acting like everybody is like that, but that population exists, so we're not going to undermine the people that feel that way. But there's also a very large population of people that are civilians, and they don't necessarily care about that and just want to follow the art and the raps. And for those people, they're still fans of Kyd Slade. And I personally think he always lands big bombs in all of his rounds. Like, he's always going to have 2-3 really big haymakers. That man is capable of landing some big punchlines. But for me, I don't have him winning a single battle since the Tay-Rock battle. And I know the Tay-Rock battle, he's winning on the app. You can argue he won it, but the whole battle is just like just one giant mess that I don't really feel comfortable trying to give credence to either of those two guys being a winner for real. And when I think about like his Suge battle, I'm not going front. That was a very difficult situation for him to try to overcome. I got to give him a whole ton of credit for even just being up there, but I thought Suge had his best performance of the year against him. I don't have Kyd Slade winning that battle. And Gnome Pact, you know what I'm saying? I just talked about it with Sheed. So I didn't like that battle from any of the four of them, for real. But it wasn't a bad performance. It wasn't one to write home about. And in this Cortez battle, look, maybe I'm in the minority. Me and Titus feel the exact same way. We feel like that battle's competitive, and nobody really wants to admit to that. I feel like there's this lack of objectivity with Cortez sometimes. And even if you have Kyd Slade beating Cortez, I did not watch that battle thinking, yo, this is a guy that can compete with Nitty. I was just confused by the booking because it's like, yo, a year ago, Bill Collector, who was a top 5-6 battle rapper in the world, just came off winning a tournament, has all this road experience, went into this exact same venue to battle this exact same guy, and lost clearly. And Kyd Slade's not better than Bill. He's nowhere near Bill's level right now.
So it was a very similar result. Oh, I'd say even worse this time around.
It was a worse result. It was a worse result. And so I just don't think there's moments of his style where like he's landing these haymakers, but the pacing of it and the in between space isn't enough to compete with some of these top tier names. And I'm not critiquing him for all that paperwork. I don't care about none of that. I'm critiquing him strictly off of his production on the stage, and I don't feel like it's producing the results that people probably think it's producing personally. You know what I'm saying? I wish there was much more of a gradual incline after that Cortez battle, because it was a good look for him. It was a very good look for him. But I don't think you just go from Cortez and Martinez to Rum Nitty in Arizona and expect to be successful. Yeah, that's ludicrous.
And I think this is something else that, and then we can't stop this from happening either. And I don't think that we should, but definitely limiting it. Stop using Tay-Rock and Rum Nitty to give people shots. That's pointless. We are sending people into a lot of times either just dead on like suicide missions, or for the most part, they're going to do their best. And a lot of times, like in the Flair Soul situation, still probably lose the majority of people. Now, you do seldomly get these results like a Swamp, like what a Foots may still be, we haven't seen the footage, and I feel like this battle's already been talked to the ground, but you do get a situation where someone can have a breakout and clear him, you know what I'm saying, or get a great result from it. But for the most part, with the Rock and Nitty shot giving, these are guys that you're supposed to work your way all the way up to. Now, the counter argument will be, well, why do we got to wait all these years for them to fight vets? No. You don't got to wait years. You don't got to wait nothing. But for Rock and Nitty, not all vets, but for Rock and Nitty, let's really wait until someone's at the top of their talents. Because when you get a situation like this, it's mad unfortunate. Slade, who I think is a very good talent, has already done good versus some vets, but big losses mean more than big wins. You can tank your stock way quicker than you can just go and rise it all the way back up to the top. So when you have a guy that's really, you feel is on the precipice, if you have a battle from him with Core where clearly, you know what I'm saying, everyone appears to be happy with it, there's a bit of a push for him, you're not going to get it just time and time again to push a guy if you're going to walk him right into a 30. So in terms of giving a shot, being Rum Nitty in Arizona, that's not giving someone a shot, that's shooting them. So I really think that we should probably stop doing that. And this is just the best example of it.
One day you, me, Titus, and Q, we're going to sit down and go over this track record of all these shots that Tay-Rock and Nitty is giving. All right. Because I'm very confident to say that the Tay-Rock one probably equates to like nobody evolving afterwards except Swamp. You know what I'm saying? For real. And the Nitty one is a little tricky because everybody kind of rises to a peak with Nitty. So they kind of always find a way to snatch around, and maybe one or two out of every 10 opponents he gives a shot to, they might sneak a win against them. But like ultimately, like I don't necessarily see the progression from it. He went from Stumbles, who didn't rap anything on Homecoming, to Tay-Rock. And then he went from Cortez in Martinis. I want to keep emphasizing in Martinis because I feel like that venue, it produces these, what's the word? Help me out here, Simone. When you produce something that's like kind of false, you know what I'm saying? Like you have like
a bit of an illusion.
Something like that, you know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily producing what I would think is like, oh yeah, this is good enough to go get. Like, no, I don't feel that way.
It's getting the cheers, you know what I'm saying? Like it's getting like the energy that it's like that, but you personally don't. You're looking at the material and you're like, this is the next level material.
I don't see it that way. So like from stumbles on homecoming that didn't wrap a single round to battle the face of the league, and then Cortez in the small room to then battle your number one ranked battler on the app
Well, he
in
did
his
have Suge in
hometown.
between, which he did very good versus Suge, all things considered. But a lot of people have him losing that as well. So
Yeah.
obviously,
I
I
mean,
see your point a little bit.
I ain't say you got to give him a bottom tier, nothing like that. But I just think there is a much more gradual increase, and more importantly, I don't feel like he's seen from his stumbles performance to now. Is there really any evolution in his style other than just a couple heavy hitting punches in between some of these rounds? Like I don't like he might be close to his ceiling, and I felt that way for a long time. He wrote that in his UM4 draft. Maybe close to his ceiling. He's a productive battler, but like I just feel he needs to bring more to the table. He needs to diversify a little bit, especially if these are the opponents you're going to try to throw at him. I don't know, so I never liked the booking, and now it feels like you have to work twice as hard again with him. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention the fact that you've kept him as a surprise all year, right? You made him a surprise battle on Gnome. You put him on Band. Then he surprises putting him last on Traffic. Like, if you're going to actually try to market this guy and build him back up, put some strategy behind it. You know what I'm saying?
You can't be halfway. You can't. I'm kind of want to push him, but I kind of don't want to don't. You know what I'm saying? You've given him ever since the angle broke on him, man. He's gotten 3 top tier battles and or at least vet name battles at the least. And it's all promoted very weirdly at times. It's like max promotion at times. It's like he's like like you said, he's getting pulled up as a surprise battle. I think he's immensely talented, and I think he's obviously going to always be in a weird situation for the angle. I do feel like he hasn't reached his stumbles peak, you know what I'm saying, ever since that situation. We haven't seen that type of explosiveness. I don't want to say it's down to confidence. Obviously, if you don't get to speak to the man, it's harder to speak to things like mindset. But at the end of the day, the ship's got to get steered quick. And overall, with both of the UM4 guys, I mean, we've seen most of the UM4 class fall out for the most part. Let's just be perfectly honest with it. Everybody made Next go away. Next might be the best member from the class.
Talk crazy.
We've had situations, stumbles, True Foe is a bit of how that's went out. Real Name Brandon actually had a good battle tonight, so I can't say much, but obviously we know the critiques. I had no idea where MVP is at that moment. Shout out to him, though. Even he had some clever punchlines for the most part. Now you get to these last 2. We talked about Kyd Slade. I don't know how much more time, especially with new class. Now you got 2 new classes, rookies versus sophomores coming up. The window is closing for you guys to make that run or make yourself still push worthy and not just become a part of the roster. And it's got to happen sooner rather than later. Has to.
When are any of these guys ever going to just be like, hey, I'm not actually ready for Rum and Rock yet? Can I get something else? When is anybody ever going to just be honest with themselves? Just be like, hey, you know what? Hold off a little bit.
But when
you know
are we
going to
stop? But I'll tell you what, though, it's hard to get off of Rum and Rock because we don't know if you're going to get Rum and Rock again. It's easy to say no, plan it out strategy-wise, but the strategy, for the most part, battlers battle. They should have strategy, but that's at the end of the day, they're paid to show up rap. The league has to have plans for guys, man, in my opinion. So when you see stuff like this, these guys have the talent. Sometimes they haven't showed up. Maybe they're not those guys, but putting a guy in Rum Nitty versus Arizona is giving him no chance, even if he is or isn't the guy. So I think
it's as simple as this. Before you book that battle, you have to ask yourself, is Kyd Slade right now better than Bill Collector last year? If the answer is no, you don't proceed. You don't proceed. Period. All right.
But we did save the best for last, though. Although although I would say in the building, I gave Rum Nitty performance of the night. I'd say Danny and Hansel also great performances. Want to give them their credit. Geechi Gotti versus Jay the Nitewing is so by far and away the battle of the card. It was by the second round, there was really nothing to talk about in that department. Axe is I guess the main event coming in, right? Flyer wise, main event probably technically the main event. And then they end up going second to last. But there was, oh my God. So Jay starts first. And Jay is always going to have slow intros. It's just always what it's going to be. Even if it's to his detriment, this is something he's going to do. And as someone with a unique style, I can say it works out for him a lot of times as battles go on. So I'm done critiquing it. But he pretty much puts himself in a hole in the first. His first half of his first isn't like, you know what I'm saying? It's lighter material. It's a little bit jab, like reminds me of his first versus Mad Flex. In a lot of ways, the structure of this battle reminds me of the way he approached the Mad Flex battle. The second half of the first is straight punches for the most part. Good rapping. But the first half is Jay going like this. You get rapping Geechi Gotti in the first. This just from a straight punchline, scheme, cadence, like I'm just going to write bars. is one of the better versions of that Geechi Gotti we've seen in a minute. He punched Jay's life away the entire first round. It was not just a clear 1-0, it was a nasty 1-0. You know what I'm saying? It's the type that makes you worry going into the second. So now Geechi 1-0 clear, right? Only clear round of the battle, in my personal opinion. You get into the second round of the battle. Jay takes an angle. He starts out with the hair angle, which we've heard against Geechi a lot. But something I want to talk about, I'd love to hear your opinion on it. I think Jay is so good at taking an angle, and it's almost something that reminds me of the late great Pat Stay, R.I.P. Pat, taking something so funny. Like, he really just starts out with comedy for the first half of the angle, but by the second half of the angle, he's turned it into a weapon. And that's really what he did with the hair angle in the second. Something we've heard so much, but he did it so well.
I think he has like this awareness of just like everything in battle rap sometimes is really freaking ridiculous. And he's like, when we stop to realize what we're talking about, what we're saying and doing, this is insane. And so then he finds a way to like make very lighthearted comedy of it, but also realize, hey, I'm already here. If I'm making you laugh, I already grabbed your attention. So now let me get layered with this exact same topic that I just made comedy out of. And I think that's brilliant. I think the first early signs of that was
so few can do that. So few can do that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's also a testament to like the demeanor, your presence, and how you sell that shit, because you kind of have to have, it sounds weird, but you're gonna have to have the voice and posture for it, because it's like you have like a condescending look, like a smile, a smirk, a look around the room, and all that shit just adds on to it. I think the earliest sign of him doing that, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Saga battle, you could point to that. And it's like, yo, what are you talking about here? And it just worked.
And even versus Flexi, that's why I say it mirrors the Flex battle. The first was similar, slow start, punch heavy first. The second, he takes the screenshot angle where he's like, oh, the Nitty screenshot, which if you're not even on Battle Rap Twitter, how would you even know about that situation? Like, very obscure situation that was pretty funny when it happened. And once again, takes the first half of that comedy-wise. I mean, you could probably name 4 or 5 different instances, man. It just shows that something that probably doesn't get talked about enough with him. He's an elite angler when he chooses to be. I mean, he's an elite angler when he chooses to be, man. One of the best that we got.
I got to write a story about Jay Nitewing before the traffic battle. I'm glad he got a chance to read it after his performance, so it probably even resonated with him better. And in it, it's pretty much just, I ended it with saying that those who skillfully capitalize off of their fleeting opportunities become the architect of their own extraordinary desires. You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to get my little wordsmith back for Jay, because I was writing about Jay. Jay does that kind of stuff.
But, right here.
You feel me? You know, I let the pen move a little bit, but I did that because ultimately this is a guy that if he is motivated, he's an extraordinary and special talent. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why he's still top 5 on the URL app, because he went on such a crazy run. A little bit of revisionist wins there too, but he went on such a crazy run.
He won some battles and choked him, but it's not here nor there.
It's not here nor there. 1 or 2 of those things, but like, he went on such a run that withstand the test of time for years on this goddamn app. And it just shows how dominant he was. And I really felt like after that twerk battle, he was ready to ascend to a whole nother level. You know what I'm saying? So I think we need to talk a little bit about the importance of a mental health and breaks from the culture. I know myself, I just took a break not too long ago for about like 10 days, and I was very refreshed. It's important to just leave because of how just muddy and toxic this battle rap world is online. You don't get to be at an event every other weekend where it's actually fulfilling and fun.
Nice people, and what this is meant for, you know what I'm saying, for the most part. But
you're online where it's just warfare all the time, and so that kind of eludes your mind a little bit. And like once he took that break and came back, now he's in a perfect position where it's like, I'm only going to take the battles I know that will push my pen, motivate me, or that I desire. And let me just go ahead and say this now. I'm jumping out the window when I say this. If he had 2 more battles at the level of his Maflex and Geechi battle, he's easily a top 20 guy.
And he probably not 20. Probably not 20. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, I mean, his Maflex battle's great. And, we've only gotten halfway in this. We're just talking about his second round. And Geechi's second is really good. Like, really, really good. This is, once again, punch heavy round. Like, Gotti was just rapping with him. If you're the one that's like, oh, I want to see the hungry Gotti that's just punching every fucking bar, that's what he was doing, man. Drug talking there too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is I'd say damn near like a vintage Gotti performance, which we kind of said a few times this year, right? Obviously his material for the most part has been very motivated this year. And he, towards the end of his second, he definitely freestyles out of it, which he freestyles in his third, but I think to much more of much more strategically and much more in a special sense. This one was definitely I'm freestyling to get to the end of this second round. And he was able to make it entertaining, but not necessarily a straight battle rap type of like cleanness, right? So it's tough because I edge Gotti the second in the building. At first, I'm like, man, I really love Gotti second. Plenty of haymakers to match. But as the material has resonated with me, I'm going to do something maybe a little bit strange here. I actually edged Jay the second round of this battle. Like as I really walked away and thought about the creativeness of it, I found myself like, listen, it's such a toss up. I mean, the second is like basically a preference round, really. It's angles versus punches. But I had an extreme appreciation for Jay taking a bit of a risk there in the way that he did that. Then you get into the third round of this battle. Like I said, like his Mad Flex battle, right? First round, punchlines. Second round, kind of that comedy / attacking angle. Third round, there's a message. Now, last battle, the message was a little bit different, talking about the culture kind of like being its own demise and a little bit of that. But this one starts out with what seems like a simple, which is what a great angler does. And he takes something simple and makes it special. Starts out with a gangbanging culture, how terrible it is, you know what I'm saying, the promotion of it. And we've heard this against Gotti, I mean, numerous times. I could name probably 10 or 15 times, but Jay obviously puts his touch on it. He has a way of sounding extremely introspective when he gets into that bag and conceptual. And the way that he specifically tailored it to Gotti, was able to wrap his slogans into it. I think plenty of times that he flipped some of Geechi Gotti's famous slogans or famous bars onto himself with this angle. It's an angle that me just saying it, you feel like you've heard 15 or 20 times before, but there was literally points of the battle where the fans made Jay stop rapping, not to cheer, not to give a haymaker reaction, to give physical applause from the entirety of the audience. I mean, there's literally people clapping like, nah, man, this is incredible. It's a dialogue third. The way he packaged it together, whether you agree or disagree with the material, because all angles in a sense are a little bit of an extremist factor. And Gotti even addresses in his round kind of some counter writing against it. But Jay really put together, I mean, one of the best rounds of his career in this third. And it just goes to show the more topic-based he gets, the more angle and the more it means to him. He's one of those that you can clearly tell when he cares about what he's rapping. Because that was, I mean, man, that might be my favorite Jay the Nitewing round I've ever heard, personally, to be honest with you. Perfectly, to be honest with you. And then Geechi's third is just as good a response.
We gave Jay a ton of credit, which he deserves, but I want to give credit to Geechi for being somebody that's beaten the game more than twice, and still rapping like he has something to prove.
Casually making amazing battles, just casually.
Just rapping like he wants a fourth title or something, like, you know what I'm saying? This is the reason why people have him highly regarded. This is why his name is in the Cody race. This is why at the end of the year, you can probably see him top 5 on a lot of people's ballots. It's because of performances like this, you know what I'm saying? And I'm very happy that, Geechi Gotti gives a lot of like shots to up and comers. He doesn't do it a lot on URL, if you notice. Like, I don't know if it's by timing or by choice. I don't know. But like, you don't often see him battling that lower tier name. Yeah. And it was refreshing to see him do this, but more refreshing to read, I should say, hear his interview and pull these quotes from him where he said he asked for Jay the Nitewing. He asked for this. He wanted
That's fire. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Actually, yeah, let me see. I can actually read this to you. End quote, Geechi. I asked for Jay the Nitewing. He's an up-and-comer on the West and has been doing this thing for a minute, and sometimes you need a matchup with a solidified star in order to keep the stars going. Now I can fall back in a year, and he can give somebody else a shot. And I'm very, very happy he did that, because it's like, you get the West-West kind of battle. It's always a little special for those people out there in the West. They hold a cherish to their hearts. Jay the Nitewing is a guy that was kind of missing in action, came back in dynamic fashion against Mad Flex, followed up with a magnificent performance against Geechi. And so now it's like, all right, bro, you back. You know what I'm saying? Hold it down. You know what I'm saying? Take battle at your pace, and you here. And I'm very happy to see that, man, honestly.
Yeah, and how about this? Not just to be happy, how about the skill it takes that, as good as Jay's third is, Geechi freestyles rebuttals pretty much the entirety of Jay's round. I mean, there's at least, Geechi said he freestyled his entire round and scrapped his third. His career breakdown section seemed like it had been written, but I will say, at least in my personal opinion, at least half of that round is freestyled, but with purpose. Not freestyled because it was forgotten rhymes or anything like that. Freestyled because he had genuine things in the moment to respond, saying, all the stuff that you're rapping about, helping out, we're actually out in real life doing it. You know what I'm saying? I only mess with honor roll. What do you say? I want to see your report card. I only mess with honor roll. If we see B's and C's, you can't even hang with us. So he clearly, super strategist, immediately has responses for that. And something that he said over and over while he was doing it. Now he's got to hear this. Like, fuck my round. I want to respond to what he's saying. From there, he gets into a career breakdown section, talking about obviously the shortcomings of Jay's career, how he's hurt himself. And he kind of took the disrespectful angle with it, right? Because we all know Geechi has a straight disrespect bag, which feels rare now in battle rap, right? Like, there was a point that straight disrespect ruled like the earth. You know, we're talking like GT times. And now we're in an era where for the most part, it'll be considered filler. But for Geechi to pull off an angle without really much wordplay to it, just like, you're pathetic, you're a loser. You know what I'm saying? Like, you messed up every opportunity. Say it very bluntly and still get the message across. There's skill in that because he is an incredible, one of the best anglers we have himself. And it's one of those things where the third becomes close enough where knowing how, first of all, how good Gotti is, but especially the fandom and how much people respect Gotti, you'll see people, I think, call this third debatable. And I definitely think it's close. I just think Jay set an extremely high bar. I mean, I just appreciate a different type of approach to things, right? When you take an angle and you do something maybe to a level that someone hasn't done before, and the way that he won the building over in the third. But to be perfectly honest with you, I had Geechi taking the first clear. I do have Jay edging the last 2 rounds, but there might even be some people out there that have Geechi edging the last 2 rounds. I might have this as a Geechi gentleman's. I'm one of that'll have it as J2-1. For me, it's one of my favorite phrases. It's a net positive. I think both of these guys are going to gain a lot from this. If you're Geechi, you just put up what people are inevitably going to call a battle of the year contender. Whether you think it's top 10, top 15, top 5, that doesn't matter. They throw contender on it. It's you know what I'm saying? It's a nice word. So very, very good battle that helps him out. And as for Jay, what more can you ask for, man? You come back, you go to King of the Dot with Mad Flex, one of the best there, have an incredible battle with him. You come over to URL versus Geechi Gotti, one of the best in the world, really anywhere, but especially on URL, have an incredible battle with him. Great, great return for Jay so far, and I cannot wait to see what his 2024 looks like. And as for Geechi, we'll be talking about him come January or February. We'll be talking about him probably in that top 5 section because his 2023 has been remarkable.
Salute to Geechi Gotti. Salute to everybody in the West. Everybody out. URL, KG, KD, JB. Everybody with 2 letters in their names. Yeah.
Shout out the initial gang.
The initial gang. Now, big shout outs to the league, you know what I'm saying, for putting on a very dope event for the West. Blessing the young staff writer J-Smo in the building. They said you were a headache, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm happy.
Shout out Katie, man. You know what I'm saying? In my time apparel when I was causing trouble. She helped me out, you know what I'm saying? It's a shout out to the staff and everybody, man. Always, like I said, when it comes to staff, fans, any of that in the building experience, completely different level. And thank you for URL for, as per usual, showing that.
I want to